Okay, hello. My name is John Watts, and I'm broadcasting to you here live from the Friends Journal offices in Philadelphia. Oops. How do I turn the sound off on my own? There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Hello, my name is John Watts. I'm broadcasting to you live from the offices of Friends Journal here in Philadelphia. We're in Center City on Arch Street here. And this is my little mural behind me of different QuakerSpeak thumbnails through the ages. So the video that we're doing today is in celebration of all of the support that we've received on Patreon. So Patreon is new to QuakerSpeak. We've been doing QuakerSpeak for 3 years now. And just this year, we started this new part of the project, which is crowdfunding for each video. So you can donate as little as $1 per video to keep QuakerSpeak going. And we have over 100 folks who have taken us up on that offer now. So I printed out these little, thank you. For supporting QuakerSpeak. It means so much to us to have you all watching, and whether you're a Patreon supporter or not, thank you for joining us and for watching our videos. And here's also some balloons to celebrate that we have 100 supporters on Patreon. So again, if you're just joining us, welcome to this live chat. We're here at the Friends Journal office in Philadelphia. I'm John Watts. I've been doing the QuakerSpeak project for 3 years now. I get to travel all over the country and interview Quakers who have something to say about their spirituality, who have stories to tell, and who have a really deep interest in sitting and talking with me about it. So it's been a real privilege to get to interview all of these friends and to get to post the videos online. I'm somewhat new to the Google Hangouts thing. I'm sort of looking around. I see a live chat here. I see a live chat box at the top right. So if you're watching and you want to say anything to me, if you have any questions for me about how QuakerSpeak works, where we get our ideas for the videos, how the interviews go, or anything like that, please feel free to post a question in the live chat box over there to the right. I am going to say something right now. Let's see how I do that. First, I get the link, and then I put it in here. Let's see. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to ask a question. Okay, there you go. That's the chat box in the top right. And if all goes according to plan, I will see it when you type something in there. So for the past week, we've been saying that we were going to do this live hangout for the QuakerSpeak channel in order to celebrate getting 100 supporters on Patreon. And so we've gotten a lot of questions from people all over the world, really. I'm just looking at where people have submitted questions from. There's someone from Dublin, Ireland, someone from Maryland, someone from Oregon, someone from Indiana, Arizona, Ithaca, New York. So one of the cool things about being an online Quaker project is we get to sort of hear from all of the hotspots of Quakerism from all over the world, and from people who are curious about Quakers and have questions for us. So I am not an expert in Quakerism. I'm not a Quaker historian. I am not the authority to answer all of the questions about Quakerism. I'm sure that you know that as a viewer. I did get some questions from people that are really, I'm not I'm not the Quaker authority. I get to go around and interview Quakers. And if you're familiar with Quakers at all, you know that we don't have a creed. There's no written document that we can say, go to this document, all Quakers will believe exactly what's written on this sheet of paper. Now, we do have documents that are called Faith and Practice, and each different yearly meeting, each group of Quakers will write their faith and practice for that yearly meeting. And these are pretty in-depth documents that are a testimony and really demonstrate how the Spirit is moving through that group of Quakers at the time. But something like membership, or okay. So here's the first question that I'm going to do. If you're just joining us, thank you for joining. I'm John Watts. I run the QuakerSpeak project here at Friends Journal in downtown Philadelphia. And for the past week, people have been sending in questions about the QuakerSpeak project, and so I'm going to answer a few of those for you now. There's a chat box at the top right of your screen. If you'd like to ask me a question, I'll answer whatever I can. So I was just saying that I'm certainly not an authority on Quakers. I have interviewed a lot of them, so I can give sort of like a broad range. But a question like this. So Dave from Westminster, Maryland asked, do Quakers participate in the Eucharist or in baptism? Why or why not? And that's a great question, Dave. Thank you for asking that. So I would refer you to some of the videos that we've made, in particular, the one with Michael Burkle, which is called Why Quakers Don't Take Communion. I'm actually, let's see if I can do this. Why Quakers Don't Take Communion. So Michael Burkle is a professor in Richmond, Indiana. He works for Earlham School of Religion. Here we go. I just posted the link up in the chat section. And I asked him this exact question. Do Quakers take communion? Do we participate in the Eucharist or in baptism? And Michael Burkle does a really great job of talking about the theological testimony of especially early Friends. But what it is that we were doing, in the 17th century, when we threw out a lot of the forms, like the Eucharist and baptism, what the meaning for us was behind those outward forms in the 17th century, and what it meant to us to create space. So I really recommend that you go check out Michael Burkle's video. He does a much better job of explaining that than I could. It's called Why Quakers Don't Take Communion. So thank you for joining us. My name is John Watts. If you just clicked over, this is the QuakerSpeak project. We are a weekly video project out of Friends Journal, which is a Quaker magazine. We are based in Philadelphia, and I'm talking to you today from the Friends Journal office in Center City, Philadelphia. We're doing this chat as a celebration for all of the people who have supported us on Patreon. Patreon is the platform that allows crowdfunding for ongoing projects. So with QuakerSpeak, we release a video every week. And you can donate to QuakerSpeak and support the project by giving as little as $1 a week to the project. And that really helps us a lot, helps us keep going. So thanks for everyone who has donated so far to QuakerSpeak. Thank you. And I'm here today answering your questions. So I see that we have a few comments up in the top right. Thank you for everyone who has commented. So Bill, you said you're surprised that we only have 100 supporters. So we just launched our Patreon page a little over a month ago. So that's relatively new, and sort of we're getting that started. We have, of course, subscribers are people who follow our newsletter or have subscribed on YouTube or on Facebook or Twitter, and we have over 15,000 of those from all over the world. So I get emails, and we get Facebook comments and other social media comments from people who have just discovered us through one of our videos or have been following since 2013 when we launched the project. And we feel so blessed and grateful to have so much engagement and so many people who are interested in Quakers and Quakerism. And of course, YouTube is an amazing platform to connect with people. You know, as the director of the project, it's been really amazing for me to get to be in the room with these folks. You can see behind me, I've got some of the videos that we've made throughout the years. Oh, and I see Michael Burkle up there. That's the thumbnail if you're going to look up that video that I was just talking about. It's been amazing for me as the director to get to be in the room with these folks as we are really entering a worshipful state. You know, if you're familiar at all with Quakers, you know that a lot of us worship in silence. And what that silence does for us is it gets us really grounded and centered and coming from a place where we're not coming from our ego. We're trying to be vessels. We're trying to be channels for the Spirit. And that's where our ministry comes out of. You know, when we stand and speak in a meeting for worship, it's coming out of that deep place. And as the director of the QuakerSpeak project, I get to do this one-on-one with friends all over the country. I get to talk with them, and our talks are kind of my form of worship. You know, often I'll do 10 minutes of just sitting in silence and breathing with the person that I'm about to interview. And I think you can sort of see that in the videos that people are coming from that kind of worshipful space. And it's a real blessing for me to get to then put that on the internet and share it with folks. So I'm looking at some of these other questions. Hey, John, are you still taking questions? Yes, I am still taking questions. Please type your question in the comment box there. Tails Bells, thank you for commenting. Yes, please ask another question. So what I was just talking about actually relates to one of the questions that I got, which I really like. So again, if you're just now joining us, I'm John Watts. I run the QuakerSpeak project here at Friends Journal, and we're in the Friends Journal office. I'm taking your questions. So one of the questions that I got online in the past week when we announced that we were going to do this video was from Kent Wicker. Kent is from Durham Friends Meeting in Durham, North Carolina. And here's his question. Friends have always been very literate with a long tradition of journaling, recording, and sharing ideas in written or printed form. In what ways might a video format affect how we do that? What's possible with video that isn't with just print? What's lost with video? And will the medium change the way we share our ideas and reflections? And will that affect what those ideas are? So, so that's a lot of questions. Thank you, Kent. That was really thoughtful question. I, even before we launched the QuakerSpeak project, which we launched in 2013, and we started these weekly video interviews with Quakers, I had tried out vlogging. So as you know, if you're familiar with YouTube, there are a lot of people who just go on to YouTube and talk to the camera for a little while and talk about a certain topic and call it a vlog. Well, as Kent noted in this question, Quakers since the very beginning have been very quick to weigh in on public conversations, especially of theology, but also we're very active politically. And in the first generation of Friends, the printing press was a big deal. You know, the ability to be able to make your own publications and distribute it to your community, Quakers were all over that. Quakers were really interested in being self-publishing theologians. So early Quakers were just pumping out the pamphlets. And so it was interesting to me when the internet became such a big deal that more Quakers weren't doing this, basically, what I'm doing right now, of pointing a camera at themselves and talking about their own personal theology. And I had traveled as a musician, mainly up and down the East Coast, visiting with different Quakers and playing. You know, as a musician, so I was playing shows, but I was meeting so many amazing people, and I really wanted what they had to say to be available online or in print. And but I realized, you know, the manifestation of Quakers today is often that we're kind of humble. You know, we have seen religion just be shoved down people's throats sometimes, and we do think that we have something unique and special to offer, but we don't think that we have the only answer. we're not out in the world saying this is what everybody should believe. You know, a lot of times when you go into that silence on Sunday morning, what you find is that you're confronted with something that you weren't expecting. So that tends to make a person humble. You don't tell someone else what they're going to experience in the silence. In fact, you're often going to be surprised by what you experience in the silence and what they experience. So, so I think that Quakers have been slow to do things like vlog or get onto video platforms like YouTube because we have this humbleness, because we believe that, yes, this practice is really important, but we're not going to weigh in as aggressively as the early generation of Friends because of how, sort of because of how religion has manifested in modern times. So, excuse me a second. So it felt really important to me to get to travel and document some of these Quakers who have such a deep experience to communicate to the world, but wouldn't vlog. You know, someone like Max Carter, who's a professor at Guilford College, who's one of my professors when I was there. I graduated from Guilford in 2006, and Max just, when you hear Max talk, it's like the whole span of Quaker history comes to life in that moment, because Max is so connected to the different stories of Quakers throughout time. And I know that Max would never intentionally sit in front of a camera and make his own videos. So so I wanted to do it for him. And it's been a great privilege for me that QuakerSpeak exists, and that there is a place that you can go to hear from not just Max, but all sorts of different friends about their inner lives, about what Quakerism means to them and what they're doing on Sunday morning. So so that's an answer to Kent Wicker's question about how video impacts the Quaker testimony in the world, and how we communicate to each other and how we communicate our own theology. So thank you, Kent, for that question. Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm looking around. I see some folks have typed into the chat box, so that's working. If I also see that we have a few more viewers. So thank you for joining us. If you just tuned in, my name is John Watts. I run the QuakerSpeak project here at Friends Journal. QuakerSpeak is a weekly video series. We interview Quakers of all different stripes, of all different backgrounds and theologies, people who have just come to Quakerism, people who have been Quakers their whole lives. And we ask them sometimes the hardest questions that there are. You know, I do a lot of research for the project about what questions people have about Quakers. So so I look at the Google search results and think like, how are people phrasing their questions about Quakers, and sometimes the questions that people ask about us are they're not questions that we necessarily would have an answer to in the same language that that question was framed. So for example, a lot of people on the internet type in the words to Google, "What do Quakers believe?" So I think that's common in modern religious understanding. To when you want to know the basics of religion, you say, well, what do they believe? That's a challenging question for Quakers because we have such an emphasis on experience. You know, we believe that you should go and have your own spiritual experience, and that the truth will come out of that. At the same time, as that's a really difficult question, it is a question that a lot of people have been asking about Quakers. So, so I, as the director of the project, feel a responsibility to try and answer that in the same framework in which it was asked. So I have been traveling around the country asking Quakers, what do Quakers believe? And you know, the joke is that you ask 10 different Quakers a question and you get 11 answers. So so I get a lot of responses that are like, "What? Well, here's what I believe." But for some sort of umbrella answer about what Quakers believe in general, you know, again, we don't have a creed, so it's a difficult question, and those are the kinds of things that QuakerSpeak, I think, as a project is wrestling with. How do we communicate to the broader culture in the language and framework of the broader culture when we have such a different experience of what religion does and what theologically functions as? Okay, so I'm seeing some questions here that I can weigh in on. So ASMR is asking, do Quakers have pastors or priests? So Quakers, especially so there are sort of different little branches of Quakers, and so we'll have some variety along those branches. There are some branches of Quakers who do have pastors. Initially, Quakers believed that everyone is a minister. So they got rid of the pastors because anyone has the ability to be filled with the Spirit in the way that that role of a pastor requires. Furthermore, Quakers often believed that paying people and putting them through some sort of seminary or school often didn't make them a more spiritual person, and sometimes it even made them a less spiritual person and less spiritually equipped to be in a pastoral care role for the meeting. So that was kind of the initial approach to pastors that Quakers took. More recently, there are a lot of meetings actually in the United States, which is where I live and what I can speak to. There are a lot of meetings in the United States where the meeting has decided it would actually be really useful for us to have someone who was released in the Friends term, released to focus on the pastoral care of the meeting. So you can actually find a QuakerSpeak video called "What Does a Pastor Do?" And that is with a pastor in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I really recommend it. So if you're just now joining us, my name is John Watts. I run the QuakerSpeak project here at Friends Journal. You see the sort of mural behind me. These are some QuakerSpeak videos that we've done in the past. They are on the wall of my office. I see there are some boxes over here. Those are QuakerSpeak DVDs. So if you order the DVDs on our website, these are the boxes where we keep those in the back of my office here. And we are celebrating today. QuakerSpeak has over 100 supporters on Patreon. so Patreon is the platform where you can do crowdfunding for an ongoing project. So for QuakerSpeak, we release a video every week. And so we are really grateful for those. We just launched our Patreon a couple months ago. So even though the project is 3 years old, the Patreon is just getting started. And we feel really grateful for everyone who has taken the time, taking the time and the energy and decided to support us through that platform. So today we are answering some questions. I have a bunch of questions that people have submitted online, and then I see that some good conversation is happening in the comments. So I'm gonna answer a few more questions here. I remember I responded to Tails Bells a little while ago and then didn't look back to see what the question is. Let's see. I was wondering about the licensing of QuakerSpeak. Have you considered releasing QuakerSpeak as Creative Commons open project? This way we could safely share, watch, and write about it. Well, I mean, QuakerSpeak videos are on YouTube, so so they are, publicly available. You're welcome to embed them in your own website. You're certainly welcome to share them and watch them and write about them. If you would like to share the videos offline, we have DVDs for sale. So you're welcome to grab a DVD and share it with a larger audience. Also, Patreon supporters. So if you give, I think it's $5 per video, then you get access to all of the QuakerSpeak videos we've ever made for download. Bye, Gail. My coworker is leaving the office. I'm the last one here. Now the dance party can start. So yeah, I mean, QuakerSpeak, the actual footage does belong to Friends Journal, but we are very easy about people using it in different ways. And if you're interested in using the footage for something other than just viewing it or writing about it or embedding it or getting the DVD, shoot me an email. I'm john@friendsjournal.org and happy to talk with you about what you have in mind. Oh, this is a great question. So Deciphered? Oh, nice. Deciphered said, what would be needed to take QuakerSpeak on the road, say to yearly meetings around the States or around the world? That's a really great question. I love this question because it speaks to the ambitious vision that I had when I started the project. So the thing that would be needed to take QuakerSpeak on tour, which as a Quaker musician for a long time, I was sort of on a permanent tour of Quaker meetings. I did a lot of traveling up and down the East Coast, and I did some traveling across to the Midwest and a little bit on the West Coast. If we had more Patreon supporters, if we had a partner, so QuakerSpeak in the past has done, we've had what we've called partner organizations. So we've collaborated with some other organizations on videos. And I got to travel quite a bit for those partner organizations. So FCNL was one of them, AFSC. I'm just going to throw a bunch of letters at you. If you're not familiar with Quakers, I'm really sorry. We have a lot of acronyms. FWCC, AFSC, FCNL, New England Yearly Meeting. So I was up in New England for quite a while when they were a partner organization. And what that means is when we partnered with New England Yearly Meeting, I just got together with some of the folks at New England Yearly Meeting and said, what would be a really helpful, 4-video series or so to help you all with the work that you're doing up here. So what we came up with for New England Yearly Meeting was a series of videos that were kind of skill shares. So we would go to different meetings all over New England and I would ask basically the same question of a bunch of different people from different meetings. So I would go to one meeting and I would say, how do you guys do ministry? How do you support people who are called to ministry in your meeting? Another question I asked was, how do you deepen your meeting for worship? What does this meeting do to deepen its meaning for worship? And I would ask that question at different meetings all over New England Yearly Meeting, and then I ended up compiling that footage into a single video. So if you look up how to deepen Quaker meeting for worship, for example, or I think it's how do Quaker meetings support ministry? Those are part of the partnership with New England Yearly Meeting. So, you know, if there was a broad umbrella organization that wanted to help us figure out the logistics and the finances of doing a larger trip like that, I'm all about it. I love getting out there and talking to different friends and asking them all one question and then editing it together. So thank you so much for your question, Deciphered. Yeah, awesome. Okay, let's see. Oh, I'm going to answer your other one here. And you're welcome, Tails Bells, for not forgetting, of course. This is my first time doing this, and I have it open in like several different windows, so I'm getting myself confused. Okay, now I just have it in one. Let's see. Have I considered doing a video on atheist or non-theist Quakers? So this is a question that I actually got several times over the course of the last week as people were submitting questions. If you're familiar with my music at all, you know that I come from sort of a non-theistic Quaker background. The Quakers that I grew up with I grew up in Virginia and in the Baltimore Yearly Meeting area, and especially doing the camping program down there and growing up with the Young Friends program, it was not very Christian. It was very spiritual, but I didn't learn a lot about sort of like the Christian background of Quakers, and I certainly was not super familiar with the Bible, for example, when I got to Guilford College. So that's my background. And then when I started studying Friends, and especially once I started traveling among Friends, and when I started traveling worldwide among Friends, I realized that I was in this tiny, tiny minority, that my background was not very common among Quakers. And in the interest of representing Friends, I've wanted to talk with a large variety of Quakers along the theological spectrum and not assume that any one is going to be the truth or going to be dominant. And this actually speaks to another question that someone had that I really appreciated. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Oh, great. Okay, so this question is from Chris. Chris goes to Stoke Newington in Britain Yearly Meeting, which is in London. And his question is, given the breadth and difference in Quaker belief and theology, what is the QuakerSpeak editorial policy? How do you navigate these differences, and what lessons have you learned on that over the lifetime of the project? So this is exactly what I am talking about and thinking about is, you know, given that I am not the gatekeeper for what's true about Quakerism, that I'm not, you know, earlier, if you've tuned into this entire video, you know, I was saying that the Quaker style of worship sort of creates this humbleness in us because we know that we don't know. In the end, when we go into the silence with expectations, when we go in thinking that we know what's going to happen, when we go in thinking that we have some sort of control over the truth, usually we're surprised. And it's only when we make ourselves vessels, it's only when we empty ourselves of all those expectations that we that we actually get that experience of this, of the deepest truth of the Spirit moving through us. So considering that, how do you create a YouTube channel that has an editorial policy that features Quakers from all sorts of different branches? And you know, I think the closest I could come to giving that a name is faithfulness. You know, I was saying earlier that a lot of the interviews that we do for QuakerSpeak are done out of the worship, out of silence, that we sit for a while before we start talking in any of the interviews that I do for QuakerSpeak, whether that person is deeply Christian or atheist or non-theist. You know, we have this practice together that centers us, that that grounds us. And as I'm going back and editing the project, regardless of who I was talking to, what I'm listening for before I publish something is faithfulness. You know, was that person speaking out of their grounding? Were they speaking out of their being a vessel for whatever this energy is? You know, and if it's a Christian-centered Quaker, they're going to say, you know, I was filled up with the Spirit of Christ. And if they're a non-theist Quaker, they can say that, you know, I wasn't speaking from my ego, from my own agenda. So that's really the editorial style of QuakerSpeak, is when was that person the most connected with a truth that was bigger than them, if that makes sense. So so no, I don't, you know, I don't give preferential treatment to Christian Quakers. I don't give preferential treatment to non-theist Quakers. I give preferential treatment to groundedness, centeredness, faithfulness. Does that make sense? Cool. So I'm going to wrap up here in a second, and I will take one or two more questions. If you just joined us, thank you so much for joining. If you've been watching this whole time, it's been a real pleasure to talk with you. It's a little weird because I'm sort of just looking at myself, but I really feel grateful for all of the people who have commented in the comment section. It gives me a sense of who it is that's watching and what you're thinking about and what questions you have coming into this. I see that someone asked something about my music, which I really appreciate. I was a traveling Quaker musician for years before I started the QuakerSpeak project. And I got to meet a lot of amazing Quakers through doing that work. And I also got to sort of do my own style of QuakerSpeak, which was just really powerful for me to do that kind of centered grounding. And then, you know, what's going to come out? As an artist, I feel like the Quaker practice of centering oneself and preparing oneself for ministry by emptying out your ego, that's perfect for art. It makes such good art. Like, that's exactly what the artist needs to do in order to be a vessel for the muse, right? So I really love the music that I got to make out of that space. And I do still make some instrumental music. And actually all of the music on QuakerSpeak is my instrumental music. And I'm always posting stuff to my SoundCloud and to my Bandcamp. So, I mean, you can, yeah, if you just Google John Watts SoundCloud or John Watts music, you can see all the new stuff that I'm doing. But thank you. Thank you for asking about my music. I really appreciate that. Okay, one more question. Let's see. Thank you. Thank you, Tails. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Tails Bells. Thank you so much. That's a really lovely comment. So I'm wrapping up here. Oh, I want to read a few more comments that people had. This is Charlotte. I think this person's name is Charlotte, and they're from Charlotte Friends Meeting in Charlotte, North Carolina. But I could be wrong. They could have been mistaken when they were putting their name into the form. But I'm going to go ahead and call this person Charlotte from Charlotte Meeting in Charlotte, North Carolina. And they had a comment that was, I have recently become acquainted with QuakerSpeak, and I love it. I don't have a question, but a request. I would love to have a series on people sharing stories about Quakers that they have met personally and that inspired them, and another about Quakers and history. This person, who I think her name is Charlotte, said this format's snippets of life is just the right size to digest, provoke thought, and inspire. It makes me want to learn more. Thank you. So thank you so much, Charlotte. I agree that that is a great idea. Often folks, the anecdotes about Quakers who had an impact on our lives are often the most powerful, because when we are grounded in the Spirit, we radiate. You know, it has a ripple effect. It touches people all around us, especially if we're in a role or a profession where we're meeting and working with lots of different people. So this is a great idea. And I hope that people will continue to send in great ideas. We are always looking for new ideas for QuakerSpeak, and I have a long list of things that I want to get to. So I don't think we're ever going to run out of ideas, but that speaks to the power of this religious tradition that we've inherited. That I can make 3 years of videos. I think there's over 130 QuakerSpeak videos, and I feel like we're still just getting started. There are so many places to go with the project, and so many people now that are tuned in from all over the world. And just doing this little chat here today on YouTube and getting so much great feedback and engagement from you all who have posted in the comments really, is emphasizing to me the power of the format and the sort of the necessity of bringing these stories to the world. So thank you so much for tuning in. Again, this has been a live chat with me. My name is John Watts of the QuakerSpeak project here in Philadelphia. We're in the Friends Journal office, and we're celebrating how many supporters we have on Patreon. And we've been talking for the past hour or so, answering your questions about QuakerSpeak. And thank you so much for tuning in. This video will live on our Patreon page, and it will be accessible to the public. So feel free to head on over there and check it out. It's patreon.com/QuakerSpeak. And as always, QuakerSpeak is releasing videos every week. Every Thursday at 4 o'clock, we put out a new one. So stay tuned. There will be a new one in 2 days, and you can subscribe on YouTube or on QuakerSpeak.com, and we're on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks so much for tuning in. Oh, I have my thank you for tuning in, and thanks to everyone who has supported us on Patreon. You guys are awesome. Maybe we'll do this again soon. Okay, bye.